In some of our previous videos, we've discussed the most sought after transmogs in general, for every armor type and even for some weapons. In this video, we're going to be counting down some of the most desired Death Knight transmogs to be added into the game. To begin our list, we have the Ice Crown Citadel sets at number 10. These sets are rather self-explanatory and are simply the tier set exclusive armor for Death Knights only. This armor has 3 variations in color. The reasons for these 3 different hues is because Blizzard had not yet made a Mythic difficulty raid variant, and still used the 10 and 25 man scaling. So before entering a raid, it was predetermined to how difficult it would be because the raid was designed to be played with 10 or 25 players, with nothing in between that number. So you had the normal 10 man set, 25 man normal, and then the 25 man heroic version. Where a potential 10 man heroic set would have been introduced is unknown, but it was likely never added into the game because you already would be taking much longer to obtain your tier sets than usual. In ICC specifically, you actually had to obtain special mark items, such as the Vanquisher's Mark of Sanctification. These marks would then be brought back to Ormus the Penitent inside the ICC raid, who will upgrade your respective armor pieces if you have the previous versions of them. So basically 10 man armor could be turned into 25 man armor because you killed the boss on 25 man and also looted the mark in the process. So it's a bit more of a grind to get these days compared to many of the other legacy sets in the game, but not overly difficult in the slightest. What makes these sets so wanted, however, is they're actually the appearance of various named characters in Wrath of the Lich King expansion, most notably Deathbringer Saurfang, Marwyn, Scourgelord Tyrannus, and even the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse themselves. These are among some of the most favored Death Knight characters in WoW lore, and the opportunity to present yourself as a terrified Scourgelord defeating your foes seems like a pretty easy getaway from your usual Skulls and Frost. Either way, even with its age, it's solidified as one of the favorites of DK transmogs in modern WoW. And at number 9, we have the Ruthless Gladiator set. This set was introduced in Season 10 of Cataclysm and was once purchased with conquest points for your various rated PvP wins. Nowadays, this set can be acquired with simple Marks of Honor, which are a simple currency you passively obtain for doing virtually any PvP activity in WoW, including PvP world quests. Once you have at least 12 of these marks, you can go purchase the entire set for your Death Knight character and wear it with pride. You may find this set often used by DK simply because of how over the top it leans into the Death Knight aesthetic, really. With the wicked tall horns, the overly large shoulder pads, and skulls on literally every inch of the armor. It's a perfect default option to go for if you aren't super sure how to customize your Death Knight. Plus, it even has slightly marked downgraded versions of the set in different colors. This set was obtained in Season 9 of Cataclysm instead, and is now acquired in the same method as previously mentioned. Although when you take a look at it, you can see the horns and shoulder pads are a lot smaller and a lot less skulls are present throughout the whole set as a whole. Variety is always good, and at least the helmets alone are super special, being able to walk around like a living nightmare and all. And at number 8, we have the Mythic Blackrock Foundry set. This set was added as the tier set exclusive for the World of Draenor raid, Blackrock Foundry. To get it, you will need to run the raid on Mythic difficulty and only this mode. Now, Mythic difficulty was actually introduced at the very end of Mists of Pandaria for the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. There was a Mythic only coloration added for Siege, but it was really just the previous heroic coloration, and the previous heroic hue was moved to be shared with normal mode instead. What makes this set so special is that it was the very first Mythic only version of a tier set. At this point, Blizzard had intended to make Mythic raids the new high-end gaming, and something even harder than the usual heroic mode. As we understand Mythic now, only some of the most elite players in the world truly get to experience it fully. And this trend began with World of Draenor. So, to reward this difficult level of gameplay, Blizzard created a variation of the tier sets that was wholly unique in both appearance and visual effects. When you compare the Blackrock set to the normal and heroic versions, you can see a very striking difference between them, and it really sells the idea of a DK completely clad in iron. This method of reward would continue throughout WoD as Blizzard opted to make Mythic a sort of upgraded version of the base tier set for all classes. This set from BRF was the first to do so it was sought after for this exact reason. Plus, it just looks awesome, regardless of the race you're playing on a DK usually. Blizzard even continues to do this trend of Mythic being a special version of the regular tier sets, but it's a much lesser version than what it once was, unfortunately. You'll certainly see every set on Mythic have a unique visual effect the others do not have, but in recent history you can actually apply these effects to every coloration of the armor if you achieve a goal, like Ahead of the Curve or Keystone Hero of the current season in rotation. So at least you don't have to be a super high-end player to obtain these sets when they're the current anymore, or at least you can use the coloration you like more with the effects of Mythic. And at number 7, we have the Legion Order Hall set. This was added at the release of Legion and was a reward for completing the entire Order Hall campaign and getting various reputations from Legion to Exalted. Basically, if you just participated actively in activities of Legion, you would passively progress your armor set. This was actually the case of every single class in the game outside of Evokers, as they had not yet existed. Upon a closer look, however, a veteran Mists of Pandaria player may recognize these various sets as the now unobtainable Challenge Mode sets, just now with a different recolor and sort of a downgraded version. Since the beginning of the Mists of Pandaria beta actually, there have been a various amount of unused colorations of the Challenge Mode sets in WoW, and it wasn't until Legion we actually got another version of them. To obtain the true version of the DK set and the others was through the Challenge Mode system, however. Challenge Modes were essentially the beginning of Mythic Plus and would send you to complete dungeons in the Mists of Pandaria as quickly as possible. Depending on how fast you finish the dungeon, you would receive a medal from Bronze, Silver, and Gold. If you obtained gold for every single dungeon on a class, you could then purchase a Transmog set altogether and wear it with pride. Or gold if you just bought a carry back in the day. When it comes to the Legion counterpart of the original mob set, you can most notably see the downgrade in the shoulder pads and helmet area. Plus, obviously, this set is blue versus a much brighter, unholy green looking variation. The big reason the Order Hall set is wanted, however, despite being a lesser version, is it's the closest thing to getting the original Transmog set as possible. There is literally no real way to get the original Challenge Mode set, and unfortunately Blizzard seems pretty dead set on never bringing them back. So, in an act of hope and just wanting another edgy DK set, this is where the Order Hall set is brought in. Maybe someday Blizzard can change their minds and make the older set obtainable again, or at least have the upgraded sort of red coloration become obtainable instead. And at number 6, we have the Trading Post and Pandamonium items. With the release of the Trading Post, Blizzard has created incredibly unique and special transmogs to be purchased and used at will. To obtain the currency for the Trading Post, you must simply complete a Battle Pass-like track of activities. Once you hit certain marks on the track, you earn a currency called Trader's Tender, and it can be used to buy the current month's items, as it rotates with every new month. It's generally super easy to complete these tracks, as doing literally anything usually will credit towards the track, and you'll be done in no time if you actually focus specifically on it, rather than just playing the game. In the case of Death Knights, they would have added the option to purchase the webbed Serenite armor and weapons in October of 2023. Buying the items would be rewarded DK with a special helmet, shoulder pads, and belt, which can be transmogged together with various items to make a matching set. They're distinctly unholy themed and even came with 3 special weapons: a one-handed sword, two-handed axe, and a two-handed sword. Unfortunately, since October 2023, this set has not been re-added to the monthly rotation of the Trading Post and has since become unobtainable. However, there is a recolor of this exact set which was added to the special Mists of Pandaria remix. The MOP remix was/is a limited time event where players could create a character on a special tournament-like realm where they're cut off from all the other characters that are not MOP in part of the remix. You would essentially just play through Mists of Pandaria expansion as if it were current and passively earn a wide array of cosmetics in the process. Included in these cosmetics was the recolor of the Web Serenite armor in a more greenish variation, weapons included. These items are highly wanted, being relatively easy to actually obtain, and their complete unique style, but are unfortunately cut off from a potential monthly rotation. You may never see them return, or we may see them be re-added in the next week of you watching this video. Hopefully, Blizzard has learned from their mistakes of previous FOMO in the past. And at number 5, we have the Hidden Frost Death Knight artifact appearance. In Legion, players would be set up to collect various artifact weapons which would enhance your character exponentially. You would have a different weapon for every single spec, and to further enhance their custom ability, Blizzard would add a secret hidden appearance for each weapon. These versions of the weapons are usually completely hidden from guiding a player on how to obtain them, so the only way to discover them is by chance, or with some research online. In the case of the Frost Death Knight artifact, you would return to Icecrown Citadel and collect the very shards of Frostmourne. From these shards, you would create 2 new blades in the form of Blades of the Fallen Prince. To then collect the hidden versions of these weapons, you must slay the world bosses, the Soul Taker, as a Frost DK. Doing so will 100% give you the appearance, but if they are not in the current rotation of the Legion world bosses, you can instead kill Deathbringer Sourfang, the Lich King ICC, or the original 4 Horsemen and Naxxramas for a lower percentage drop chance. Once obtained, you can unlock the 3 versions of the hidden artifact, one for completing 30 Legion dungeons, 200 world quests, and killing 1,000 players in PvP. What makes these blades so special above the rest, however, is it just straight up looks the coolest out of all of them. It also allows you to travel to each Legion zone and witness the memory of Arthas, who will then give you a bunch of special quotes in the process. Basically, they're just 2 great looking swords and are often used by DKs when they are rarely seen dual wielding weapons. And at number 4, we have the Mythic Nighthold Set. This set follows the same rules as the previously mentioned Blackrock Foundry set and is obtained only on Mythic difficulty and is a sort of upgraded version of the original one. While the PvP, LFR, normal, and heroic versions of the set all look fantastic, the Mythic version stands a cutting edge above the rest. The biggest reason this set is looked fondly upon is it's so close to the actual armor of the Lich King himself that DKs all around Azeroth swarmed to farm this set when the opportunity was presented. Some would even argue it's an even better version than Arthas' original armor, because it takes the general aesthetics of the set and dials them up to 11. Even your very helmet has a crown carved into its structure. It just straight up looks like one of the best, if not the best, Death Knight sets to be added into WoW, and is a fan favorite amongst many, rivaling that of any previous entry and perhaps even what follows. And at number 3, we have the Piercing Gaze of the Risen Nightmare. This helmet was added as the tier helmet reward during the tier 31 raid of Midrasil the Dream's Hope. This helmet, while immediately a staple to how edgy a DK really can be, has many different color variations. From the Conquest set to Elite, LFR, Normal, Heroic, and Mythic difficulties of raids. The hood and incredibly pointy spikes really make it something more unique than what we typically are used to seeing, but with this helmet there's actually a slight more interesting visual in it than others. See, the helmet itself can actually be worn by all plate wearers. At least the raid variation of it can be. It comes from a BOE drop within the raid under the name of Mask of the Unbidden Grim. This significantly increases the value of this normally DK only tier for its innate edginess. Though even more special is that the jaw of the skull face mask actually moves in tandem with your character's speech. It will perfectly mimic like you are actually speaking, and your character isn't just wearing a mask, but the skull is you. It's super cool to see and helps create entirely new personas of characters to portray as your character moves, mostly for RP purposes. It's unlike any other helmet in the game, and is hopefully a testament to future transmog Blizzard intends to add, that is designed around the idea of changing your character's entire head, rather than just applying a helmet look and whatnot. Sure, you don't often actually see your character speaking, but it is still a nice, possibly niche thing to see extended into a character's personality, especially since technically anyone can do it with the existence of it being a BOE. You just have to get lucky during the trash packs of a Midrasil, or drop a ton of gold on it in the auction house for it. And at number 2 on our list, we have the Mage Tower Set. In patch 9.1.5 of Shadowlands, Blizzard returned the popular Mage Tower system back into the game. This system was a solo queued scenario where you would sometimes be paired with NPCs to fight a special boss encounter specifically designed to challenge your class and specialization to its absolute limits. Each class would be rewarded with a special transmog set for completing the challenges at least once of the various different versions they had across their specs. So if you completed just the Blood DK challenge, you would still get the entire set, finding no need to complete both the Frost and Unholy challenges. Though if you wish, you can complete all 7 challenges across multiple classes of WoW, and receive the Soaring Spell Tome mount. Though, for this entry, we're specifically talking about the DK set that is given to players upon their success. This set is a recolor of the Mythic tier from the Tomb of Sargeras raid, and is actually completely new, somewhat. The various other classes during Tomb of Sargeras actually all received HD remade transmog sets of the tier 6 of WoW, which was the Sunwell Plateau, another raid with Kil'jaeden as the final boss. Basically, if you see someone rocking this set or any of the other Mage Tower sets for a class, you can know they are a pretty capable player of that class and will usually be able to hold their own, as the challenges are actually a bit harder than what they used to be. When the Mage Tower was originally created, it was made in patch 7.2, the second patch of Legion. Legion would then have another patch, and the Mage Tower's challenges were not rescaled to fit the new gear and upgrades players would be obtaining as the expansion went through its cycle. Because of this, people greatly outgrew the gear curve needed for the Mage Tower and trivialized what once might have been an insane DPS check. A bit of practice can be made on the current renditions of Mage Towers easily, but with how its current scaling works, you are lowered to level 45 and your gear is set to item level 120. There are no outside sources that will help increase your DPS, such as past legendaries, tier sets, and the BFA Azerite systems. So it all just depends on your skill really, and that's why DKs and many other classes go for these sets to show off to their friends as much as possible. And at number 1, we have the Mage Tower Artifact Weapons. Like mentioned in the previous entry for the exact same reason, the Mage Tower was released in patch 7.2 to challenge players to their limits. Though it didn't give you the tier set recolor as we know from the previous entry, so instead, Blizzard had created a brand new artifact appearance for your character's specializations. It followed the same rules as stated, and you would just need to become a master of your class and take down the boss to receive your rewards. For the same reasons as before, you eventually would be greatly able to outscale what was already tuned for these encounters by the time Legion was almost over, and you were very likely so overpowered you can go in and defeat the encounter in just a few attempts. The unfortunate part, however, was that despite this being the case for a large majority of the End of Legion, Blizzard still went and removed the Transmogs, and they could no longer be obtained by players, despite the challenges being actually slightly harder than before. This and all other artifact weapons are very highly sought after and wanted by players to return, as their prestige has more than run its course, as prestige does not come from just playing the game at certain times. Hopefully, Blizzard reconsiders their choices to remove these artifact weapons from the game in the future, as being able to have an entire axe made of bone, a twin blade of Apocalypse, and an upgrade to the Fallen Prince's blades that rivals that of even Frostmourne is certainly a desired piece of artillery. Alright, and that's the list. Is there any other Transmogs we may have missed, or do you have any ideas for future videos just like this one? If so, please let us know down in the comments below.